Hey there, this is Chris from the Old Man Cycling Show. Welcome to another race. This is the 2023 edition of the Race Avenue Criterium in lovely downtown Lancaster. This is a really nice course. It's as you can see in the map, it's four corners. The only tough one, so we're coming up to turn one now. I'll go through the course and then we'll talk more. This is turn one. It's at the top of the finishing straight, which is uphill. It's not tough, especially we're rolling out now. You see here in turn two, there's a little bit of confusion. We're going so slow that people aren't really sure which way to go. You're going to see this guy coming from the right, tight, and everything. So there was a little bit of yelling in that first corner, but not too bad. This is the back stretch. This is the fastest part of the course. So this entire stretch is downhill, which is going to come into turn three, which is the most critical turn on the course. It's a little bit off camber. There used to be a big pothole right on the line you wanted to take. They have since covered that in. It wasn't a pot, it was actually a manhole cover that sat down about 2 inches from the road surface. They put asphalt on top of it, and as you'll see, we come around this corner, down at the bottom of this downhill, you'll see that that's since been filled in. It's still, for the most part, you want to try to avoid it. So you want to either go inside or outside of it. But if you do hit it, it's not like it used to be. It used to be a 2-inch drop, and there were always crashes in this turn. So coming down here, you're going to see right here, if you look right there, I came to the inside of the asphalt. That used to be about a 2-inch depression. So now it's filled in. So this is just the first lap of the race. Things are just getting underway. I actually went into this race with what I thought was a really good strategy, and I was determined to stick to it. And for the most part, I did. You'll see as we go on that I did, for the most part, stay to my strategy, which was there's two really solid teams in here. There's a bunch of others as well, but there's two solid ones. One team that I'm coming up on, one of the riders on the left-hand side here, Active Yards. They probably had at least 10 people in this race, if not more. Right in front of me now is the blue and orange kit of the Bigfoot Endurance team. I think they had 4 riders in this race. All 4 of them are strong. My strategy was basically I was going to cover any break that had a representative from both of those teams in it. So if just a single person went off or other teams went off, I wasn't going to necessarily try to cover that break. Reason being that Active Yards won this race last year with Bigfoot being in second. And this season so far, Active Yards and Bigfoot have been swapping back and forth between first and second on the podium. So I figured, that's the teams that I want to cover, as well as they have a lot of people in the race, which means if I just cover the break, I'm not doing any work in the break. I'll just sit on. So, this is the second lap of the race. Things are starting to pick up a little bit. It's starting to get a little bit higher speed, but yet it's early. It's only the second lap of a 20-lap race, so I don't think there's anybody that's going to go off for 18 miles. But the one thing that was really cool about being in this race is you could see the strategy of the teams. It was fun to watch, fun to observe. So you could see, the Active Yards team would try to send somebody off the front, and if the Bigfoot team didn't react, that sort of just stopped. Or the Bigfoot team would send somebody off the front, and if Active Yards didn't react, that they would just let them hang out there for a while until they came back. So I want you to pay attention on this time. I think it's this time. So we just came through turn 3 again, and again you could see that little cover in the inside. As long as you don't have to scrub any speed in turn 3, that's the most fun turn. I mean, you can fly through that thing. So now we're coming back up the finishing straight. Now this finishing straight, the funny thing about it is you'll see the red banner up in the distance. When you're coming up this, it doesn't look like it gets any closer. It's just out there in the distance, and it's not much, but it's enough that after you do this, 15 times or so, your legs are starting to get tired. Now, you can just see at the front of the group there, Joe from Bigfoot took a flyer. He decided, yep, we're going to go off and see if we can pull anybody out, start to break down the Active Yards team. The Bigfoot team really had a good strategy going into this, and they executed it well. So you can see their other 2 riders are just up ahead of me. There's another one of the riders behind me who used to be on my team, Steve. He's now on Bigfoot. He's behind me, but the Active Yards guys are all still sort of they're sitting there. it's a single rider going off early in a race. Joe did a really nice job of, trying to force the pace, trying to pull these guys that chase after him, trying to wear them down. And you can see, excuse me, that his team is still right in there, just sort of waiting to see what happens. Perhaps if they get caught again, make a counter or do whatever. But at the same point in time, this is good for me. I can just sit in. I don't have to do any work. I'm there by myself. So again, I'm following active yards and the Bigfoot wheels and just hanging out. So Joe really did nice jumping out here, and you can see now they're starting to pick up the pace on the left side of the road. And I'm going to go with this because this is what I was looking for. If these guys start to go and they start to push the pace, I want to be in that. I want to be in that. And again, being that I'm a single rider on my team, I won't have to do any work in these situations. They'll look back to me to come through, and I have no reason to come through. I'm just hanging out, sort of, which is an interesting position and something that I really picked up in this race. This was the first time that I felt I didn't feel that need to jump right out to the front, which is good. It means I'm getting more disciplined. I'm learning more. I'm getting more into sync with things. You can see, coming out of corners as you would expect. There's some surges. There's some, hard efforts to stay on. And now this is coming up the straight. So right here, that's Matt from Bigfoot. I'm not sure who the active yards guys are. I know that the winner from last year, Jeff, he is, I believe at this point, he's sitting pretty close to being right behind me. But again, you can see Matt's just letting the active yards guys pull the group back up to Joe. There's no reason for Matt to go to the front of this, and he's doing a nice job, and I get the benefit of just riding on the wheel. So this is really a nice course. Like I said, this finishing straight, it goes and goes and goes, and you finally get to the top, and it just about levels off right at the finishing line, and then you start going around the corner downhill. So you can see we have 17 laps left. Joe's still off the front. He's still pushing the pace. I think the active yards guys are, they don't want to let him get too far. They're going to, try to close it down. And you can see here, there goes, that's last year's winner that went off on the right side. That's Jeff. Really strong rider. The guy's got unbelievable power. And, most of the guys in this group have unbelievable power. But, he can just decide, yeah, I'm going to go, and he goes. And, there's other people like Tim. Tim has good power. Tim can get on it and get going. So, again, this is great for me. This is my strategy. I'm just going to follow these guys. You can see, some active yards guys go. That's Tim going with those active yards guys that are going. So I just sort of jump in this line, and again, I'm not going to the front. I have no reason to go to the front. This was really getting more disciplined riding on my part, which for me is hard to do. I have this obsession where, excuse me, I have something stuck in my throat. I have this obsession where if I see a bike in front of me, I need to catch the bike in front of me, and I need to pass the bike in front of me. But in this case, I held that in check. So you can see right now there's at least three active yards guys. There's Joe off the front, and then there's two Bigfoot guys. So, this is the perfect time. They're coming back to Joe. This is when I'm expecting a counter attack to be launched. As soon as they catch up to Joe, somebody else is going to jump. Because like I said, the active yards guys had at least 10 people in a race, at least. And Bigfoot had 4 guys. So there you can see now, Tim took off, and Jeff's chasing them. So this is one that's a dangerous one, because those 2 guys finished on the podium last year. I didn't want to let this go. So another guy went, and behind me there's a bunch of other people too. Like I'm not leaving anybody in the dust. But this is one where you can't let this break go, because if they get away, they're going to stay away. So again, we come through turn 1. And you can see Tim looks back, and he sees that everybody's still pretty much there. So he's gonna come through this turn and not really push per se. I don't know if he he and Jeff actually said something here. You know, they're right next to each other. I don't know if there's any conversation, but again, you know, those are two guys from my perspective. You know, I've got to mark them. If they go, I need to try to be with them, because they have the ability. Well, a lot of these guys, they have the ability. If they have the right group, they can get off the front and they can stay away. They got a lot of power. So we're coming down. We're into lap 5 now. So, you know, after this lap, we'll be about 25% done the race, and I'm feeling really good. You can see I get a lot of recovery on this backstretch. Again, the bottom line, the power on the right side, that's my current power. The power one above that is my 30-second power. So you can see, you know, I'm sitting pretty right here. It's early in the race still, only 25% done, but I'm happy with where I am. My heart rate's good, the speed's good. So, you know, all conditions look good so far. And as I said, you know, you come out some of these turns, and you know, people will make a push and surge or whatever, but it's all good. That, you know, those are the types of efforts you train for when you want to do a crit. And you see some more guys coming by. Some, you know, another active yards guys going. I think that was Matt with Bigfoot. You know, but it's sort of staying together. Jeff and Tim are going to stay in contact with that. So again, I don't have anything I have to do at this point other than stay with this group. And then as soon as that guy jumped over Jeff to try to get more with the group ahead of him, a little acceleration brought us all back together. Now we're back as a group. So you can see we have 15 laps left. Again, I don't know how many people started this race. I want to say it was probably in the 40s. I don't think it was 50 people, but it was a well-attended race. Coming through turn 2. And again, down this backstretch was really where, as long as everything was together, you could really get some good recovery coming down here. I mean, you can see I'm putting out very little power. My heart rate's going down a little bit. You know, I'm recovering quick. You know, so this was a good opportunity, but it was also a good opportunity, which you'll see later on the race. Spoiler alert, to make some really searing attacks, because turn 3 was the most technical turn on the course. If you took that at speed, you know, you had to have your line right, and you know, you had to hit that, or you were gonna lose a lot of spots. So I don't know if you saw, but Tim just moved up a little bit on the right side. Jeff's still up there. Matt's still up there. So you know, I'm paying attention to where things are going. And it seemed like every time you look to your side or you look somewhere, there was an active yards guy there, and you could always see the Bigfoot guy stand out with the orange and blue kit. So it's easy to sort of see where you are in relation to the teams. But it was fun. It was fun watching the race develop while you were in it. Like, it was fun seeing how Bigfoot would try to send somebody off the front, and active yards had to react because you couldn't let him get away. Likewise, active yards would send people every once in a while, and Bigfoot would react to make sure they didn't get away. And being a single rider that doesn't have any team to work there, I wasn't expected to do any work. You'll see a couple times when I'm with some of the guys to look back, and I'm just sort of sitting there pedaling along. Now if I would have been a participant in a break that was sticking at the time, yeah, I would have taken my turn of pulls. But this was all just sort of a feeling out and see what's going on. So we're coming around to turn 1 again here. And I think it's on this turn. I think on the previous lap, and we'll see in a second, it's either this time through turn 2 or the next time. You're going to see things really slow up here going into turn 2. They bunch up, and let me see if this is it. No, not this time. So wait till next lap. I'll tell you what happened in a second. So now we're going down the hill. You can see speed's picking up for some of the front guys. So they're on both sides of the road. Now you're just at a question of, okay, which group you're going to try to get on. You know, I'm just going past Tim, and he's sort of really who I was geared on from a Bigfoot point of view. I think he'll slide by me here in a second on the right side. I duck in behind him. It's either him or Jeff slides by me on the right side. I'll duck in behind them and just sort of, you know, get the draft. But this was a really good part of the course. I mean, you could really, you know, if you're in a draft, you can catch your breath. You can recover. I mean, you can see I didn't put any power till I came well through that turn, and I didn't really lose any space. So this was all good. I think I saw Joe's white helmet up there. I'm not sure. Nope, didn't see Joe's white helmet. So now at this point, you can see a guy on the left takes off, right? But you know that brake's not being covered yet by active yards or Bigfoot. They're just sort of hanging out there and doing our normal ride up the finish and stretch. And I just, again, I'm the benefit. I get the benefit of this. Now Tim's gonna go try to get back up there, and you know, one of the things I did know that if Tim goes, because I rode with this Tim last year, and Tim wasn't on Bigfoot at the time, but he had a really good jump, and I rode with him up the front for, I don't know, a couple laps, but I just didn't have the kind of power that Tim had, and you know, we were brought back, but. You know, I know Tim's capable of hanging out there for a while, so when he decides to go, I want to stay on his wheel as well. Now I think this is the lap where if you come through turn 2 up here, you're going to see like things sort of bunch up, slow down. Let's see if this was it. No, still not. Okay, sorry. You're going to see what happens. You'll see it eventually. But now we're going down the hill. The guy that was off the front, you know, he was like, oh, well, there's no reason for me to be off the front. Now Tim's starting to make a little bit of acceleration. Not too fast, but he's just trying to stretch things out. I think that's Jeff coming. No, that's not Jeff. I can tell by the socks. I think this guy's name in front of me is Rich. You know, he's watching Tim, make sure he doesn't take off. Or maybe I have Jeff and Rich confused, but no, I think that's Jeff that just went by on the left side. But anyway, the active yards guys, you know, they like I said, both these teams have really strong riders on them. But this is good for me because I have both Bigfoot and active yards. They're both doing something. I don't need to do anything other than to stay, you know, in their draft. And just not let them get ahead of me. Now, the only issue you can run into is if they get the mix of riders they want up the road, they have enough members on the team that they can sort of block at the front, whereby they'll get to the front of the group and take the line on the road that you want to take and make it difficult for you to pass. They're not gonna stop, but they're not gonna press on, so they'll let that gap open up. But you know, no worries about that yet. Still pretty early in the race. We're not even halfway done yet. So I think at this point, you know, they're just trying to push the pace, get the people that don't have the legs to hang, you know, to drop. So all in all, you know, I'm comfortable at this point. My heart rate's, again, not bad. That's what I look at. When I start being in an upper 160 heart rate or over 170, that's when I know, you know, I'm getting near my limit. So there's 12 laps to go at this point. And again, I can't say enough about this course. It is a fun course. Yeah, so this is it. So you'll see here on the right side of the road, there was a crash on a previous lap, and there were quite a number of riders involved. You can see there's at least one rider down the ground. At this point, I'm just sort of coasting. I'm not trying to attack or anything. You know, when there's a crash like that, you want to make sure everybody's there. You know, everybody gets through safely. So this is my ex-teammate Steve. at this point he went to the front for Bigfoot, and you know, I've ridden with Steve enough to know that, you know, he's going to set a good steady pace. I have no problem just hanging on his wheel and going along for the ride. You'll notice now, so this is we're into the 9th lap. Not sure what happened in the crash. I tried to find out afterwards. Didn't really get a lot of details. The only detail I did get is like there were 6 people involved, and I think all 6 of them ended up leaving the race at that point. I know at least one person, and you'll see it in a little bit, unfortunately did have to go away in an ambulance. But I haven't heard any updates yet as to what the eventual outcome was. So now, you know, Steve's just doing his work. He's just going to sit here and, you know, try to stretch things out a little bit, you know, ride his power. Like, Steve's a machine. Steve just can go at a pace and keep it going. So his job right here is to just try to tire people out. Try to separate, you know, those who are going to stay in it from those who are going to be falling off the back. There was one time where Steve did look back at me, and I just smiled like, yeah, hi Steve, I'm not coming around. And I told him as much after racing. He's like, yeah, I knew that. I knew you weren't, you know, you're just sitting here, which is all good. Like, I know, you know, I see these guys every week, you race with the same guys whenever you race them. So, you know, I know all the Bigfoot guys really well. I know some of the active yards guys, but Joe, just a little history. Joe was the very first person I met at the very first race I did when I came back to racing in the Masters class. And this was at a race that used to be called Pickle Juice. And he was just the nicest person. He was telling me about the course, telling me about, you know, who's out there, who the riders are, so on and so forth. And, you know, since then, like, you know, even though we're on different teams, I consider Joe a friend of mine. You know, we talk at Thursday night practice races. We talk during these races. He's just a good guy. And, you know, the fact that he was so friendly that first race and was telling me what's going on, it's always stuck in my mind. And the same with the rest of the guys, like, you know, Tim and Steve. Like, you know, I said Steve was my teammate. I still ride with Steve. You know, we'll go out once in a while and just go for a ride. Matt, they're all nice guys. Always have time to talk, so on and so forth. A lot of the active yards guys are the same way. But I just don't know them as well as I know the Bigfoot guys, because, like I said, you know, Joe was the first guy I ever met at any race, and, you know, I just sort of look for Joe, talk to Joe, hang with Joe. So again, Steve's here. He's just, you know, setting a good solid pace, trying to stretch things out a little bit, trying to see, you know, who's going to be hanging, who's not going to be hanging. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd lap he's been at the front, just setting the pace. You know, and this is tough work to do. You know, it's tough work. Like Joe, when Joe went on his flyer for, I think he was out for 3 laps. You know, that's hard. It's hard to be out there by yourself and keep it going. Especially this finishing straight, you can't really see it, but it's uphill enough that you feel it. Like, if you want to go up this, and we're going at 22 miles an hour right now, you want to go up this grade, you know, you've got to put some power out. You can see I'm at about, you know, between 300 and 400 watts. And that's just to stay on Steve's wheel. So he's at the front. You know, I'm getting the benefit. So you can see here, there's somebody going off on this side. Now, I moved up a little bit, but this is not ideal, right? There's no Bigfoot guy here. However, there's the active yards guy. So again, I wanted to cover this. I didn't want this to get too far away. And I think eventually in a second or so, you're going to see another one of the Bigfoot guys come up. And these guys are sort of backing off a little bit. They know, you know, nothing's going to happen here because it got closed down real quick. Yeah, that was a weird turn. I don't know what happened there. I think the guy at the front, you know, he was just sort of like, well, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm stopping. So I'm at the front here, but again, I'm not. You can see my wattage is nothing. I'm not pressing any pace. So here comes Tim. You know, I wasn't going to attack him myself. And I think this is Jeff based on his socks. He had the spotted socks on. So these are the two guys. Like, these are the two main guys that, you know, I wanted to focus on. So from my point of view, I'm in position A, right? And I was really happy with myself that I was disciplined enough when I had the opportunity to sort of be at the front. I didn't want to take that opportunity. I didn't really do more work than I had to. And all in all, to this point in the race, my strategy's working for me. You can see, you know, I do a little bit of acceleration out of these turns, but that's it. Like, you know, I just want to stay with these guys. They're pedaling through them. I might take a little coast or do whatever. Yeah, so, you know, again, they're checking, see, are we going to go? Jeff decides to launch. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go with you. I don't know if this was to really try to get away or just try to push the pace a little bit more. Now, I will say the one thing is, you know, when you do a lot of these, what I'll say 350 to 450 watt efforts for me, they do start to wear you down. And you can see my heart rate's getting up a little bit. It's like 164, but it wasn't like I'm trying to figure out how to say it. It wasn't like a killer thing. It wasn't long enough to really make it extremely painful. Like, it was real quick to be able to recover. You can see, you know, sort of looking around, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not coming through. You know, I'll sit in your wheel, but, you know, I'm not going to go take a pull. So we've finished 11 laps. We've got 9 to go. We're going down the fast part of the downhill. Again, this is where you know, I like to try to recover a little bit. It is downhill. You can still see that the rider is still, you know, off the road, but he's on the side of the road. Yeah, we're just going along. Heart rate's coming back down again. And believe it or not, even at this distance, I am getting benefit of the draft. I think there was an article I read that, you know, even at like 10 meters, you will get some benefit. Now, obviously, the closer you are, the better you are. And if there's, you know, the more people that are in the draft and you're more in the middle of the draft, the better off you're going to be. But you do get the benefit of going through the draft. So you can see, like, you know, I wasn't pedaling through that turn. I didn't lose any distance on the wheel. All right, so now Tim decides he's gonna come through, and he came through pretty quick. So now I'm making an effort to get back up on the Tim's wheel. So you can see my 30-second average is over, you know, 400, which, yeah, that's a good effort for me. Tim's looking to see who's behind him. He knows that you know, I'm not going to pull through, so he's just looking to see, is anybody going to come with me? You know, is this a chance to make a break? Because this is pretty much, I think this is what Tim did last year, right about this time. He did go off the front. Really, like I said, he's a really strong rider. He's got very good endurance. Like, he can put out an effort for a while. But like I said, this was, you know, it was a really fun race to be in, but it was also a really fun race to watch. Like, you know, I have a front row seat to all the action, which is sort of cool. You know, when I go back and rewatch these videos, you know, I enjoy seeing what's happening as it's progressing. You can see Tim, you know, knows that nothing's going to stick here. Jeff comes back. Now Matt's going with Jeff again. Another active yards guy. So, like, you know, now I switched from Tim's wheel over to this wheel. And again, when that active yards guy accelerated, there was no reason for me to, you know, try to stay after him. Like I said, at this point, you know, I was watching Tim, I was watching Jeff, and then I was watching the teams. So when, in this instance, you have an active yards guy, you got a Bigfoot guy, you know, this one I'll stay with. But if it would have been just the active yards guy, I wouldn't have chased after it. but now that you have both teams represented, I wanted to stay here. Again, it was fun. It was fun being in the race to race it, but also to watch it. I mean, there were some really good team tactics here by both these teams. They're strong, and being what I'll say, an individual in this race, it's sort of neat to see it happen, and then to take advantage of it. So at this point, that the policeman on the side was telling us there's an ambulance on the course now, so to watch out ahead. And so that, I'm not really at the front for any other reason than people slowed down a little bit. I got here and I just wanted to keep my momentum going. But again, you can see my heart rate's not bad. My power's not overdue. They're telling us on the speaker here there's an ambulance on the course. We have 7 laps to go. So I was on the front here, but I wasn't killing anything, which is good. So again, my strategy was I didn't want to be at the front. I was going to cover the 2 teams. So that's what I was doing. I just happened to be at the front here because everybody slowed down when they heard the ambulance was on. And again, I'm not attacking. I'm just sort of rolling through this, seeing where everything is. You can see the ambulance up here. I'm staying well to the left of the ambulance, giving it plenty of space. And again, my power, it's under 100 watts. My heart rate's down to 150. So I'm recovering. I'll sit here all day long if you want me to. I'm not doing any work, but eventually this is going to start going again. And there's my buddy Steve. So Steve came back up, and Steve decided, okay, let's press on. We all know where the ambulance is now. We know what part of the road we can ride on. We're going to press on. And even better, there's an active yards guy with them, so I can get the benefit of really being in the slipstream here, get a good draft going. It's much better for me. Like I said, if you have 1 rider in front, that's good. You have 2 riders in front, you're on the wheels, that's better. There is a point where you don't want to be too far back because then you're never going to get to the front. But I really was happy with how I stayed in towards the front of this race. We're not done yet, but I like my positioning. I like the amount of work I'm doing. At this point in the race, I feel pretty good. Like I said, you make these 350 to 450 watt surges. They can take a little bit out of you, but it's a lot different than doing like 600 to 800 watts. You can recover from these easier. You can see my power, 30-second power is like 300 and some watts, but my heart rate's still under 150, which is really good for me. And by the way, I know I do the full race with commentary. As I've said before, I do this primarily for myself because I like to analyze how I did things. If you'd like a different format, or you think there's a better way for me to cover the races or anything like that, leave me a comment. I know I don't have a bunch of subscribers, but I do know that some people watch this, and I do answer questions when I get them. I do get some good comments once in a while. So if there's anything you'd like to see me do differently, or speak to differently, or maybe even cut out some of the things and don't do the whole race, feel free to let me know. But personally, I enjoy watching the whole race because, like I said, at this point, being a spectator from my position as well as being a participant was really good to learn the team tactics, to know when to go, when not to go. So I just enjoyed being in this, and I enjoy watching the race again after it's been done. So at this point, again, we're just sitting a steady pace. After this lap, we'll have 5 to go. So it's at around this time. It's usually at this time, since nothing's going off the front and nobody was going to make a long, hard drag to the end. It's at this point where the teams, I believe, are starting to figure out, or they've had their strategy before, but they're starting to get in place to execute their strategy. So again, Steve's here. He's just trying to string it out. He's trying to put a good, solid effort in. To get people in position for that final attack. So kudos to Steve. You know, he rides steady, he rides strong. The whole team does. So, you know, I get to take the benefit of that. I like it, as opposed to, you know, trying to go to the front and drive things, which as a lone rider doesn't make a lot of sense. Good job there, Steve. So you see that one guy now. When you first saw the one guy, that was the first thing I saw, was a guy on a red bike. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not chasing that. But then I saw Tim with him. I'm like, oh, well, I got to chase that, because if Tim gets a gap, Tim is going to be able to hold on to that for a while. So that was a pretty solid effort to get back up to Tim. I didn't want to let Tim get off the front by himself, because like I said, if he gets a good gap, he's going to be hard to bring back. So we got 5 to go. In that point, you could see that Tim looked back, and you know, he saw he didn't have the gap he wanted. So I think he just sort of, you know, he's back into okay, let's see what happens mode. Here comes Jeff. So it's Jeff and Tim. And again, I'm where I wanted to be. I really wanted to try to stay towards the front of the group. You know, stay, you know, up in the, you know, top 10 to 15 for the race. And for the most part, I managed to do that. Now you can see they're starting to get some numbers up ahead. They've got a couple active yards guys. They got Tim. I know Joe, Matt, and Steve are you know, just behind me. So now it's starting to set up for, you know, how things are going to align for the finish. So there's three active yards guys, or maybe 2. You know, Tim's up here. I think you're going to see Joe in a minute, if I'm remembering right. I'm trying to do this from memory. And I politely let Tim get back in. I say politely. I wasn't about to try to you know, go past Tim, and not in a mean way. Just, you know, I'm riding at a good steady pace here, and I want to keep it that way. So again, this finish and drag, it's you'll see, not to spoil, but you'll see at the end of the race, like, it is a lot longer than you think. You come around turn 3 and you're like, oh, I'm on the home stretch. Great, no big deal. All right, so we have 4 laps to go now. There's another active yards guy. So they're starting to get their, you know, they're starting to get their numbers to the front. Like I said, they had enough guys in the race that, you know, if they could get a gap, they could sort of, you know, sit at the front and control the group with respect to, you know, what you would be able to do by, you know, taking up the road. Is the best way to put it, which is a really good tactic. So now they've got Jeff just went on the right side. They got another active yards guy up there. So they're starting to set up. So after this lap, we'll have 3 to go. There goes Joe again. Joe's going to go and try to chase down who's ever. I think that was Jeff that went off the front. Yeah, it was Jeff. Okay. So, you know, Joe's shutting that down. So Tim doesn't have to worry. Tim can sit here because he's got somebody up there on, you know, on the lead group. And active yards obviously have 2 guys, you know, in this group. And for me, it's too far for me right now to try to go and be like, okay. So now the guy on the red bike again decides he doesn't like how this is playing out. He thinks it's opening up too much. So he starts going after yards, reacts, Bigfoot reacts, and I react. And there's people behind me reacting as well. That's another thing I got a lot better this time at forcing my way into where I wanted to be in the line. You know, I would be a little timid at times, but this was a good open course to be able to do it. You know, if you saw a slot that you wanted to get into, you got into it. There's Ron. First time I saw Ron in the race. He saw that now there's 3 guys off the front. Ron did really well in this race last year as well. So there's 3 guys off the front. Ron's up there. And this lap is where you're going to see I made a crucial error in judgment. So you can see there's 3 guys off the front, and you know, you've got active yards here, you've got Bigfoot here, and what I'm going to call the chasing group. And coming down this backstretch, you know, I don't know if it was Ron that said it or somebody else said it, but you know, somebody made the statement that they're blocking. So I put in a big effort coming down this hill, which I didn't really need to do. I don't know if I heard something wrong or I did something wrong, but now this was my mistake. I did not stick to my rules. So I went to the front, and now I'm trying to close this gap down for no good reason. There's no reason for me to be doing this. And I did expand a bunch of energy. I would have been a lot better just sitting where I was, saving that energy. You know, I kept my strategy in play for 17 of the laps, we'll say, and now I'm trying to get back up to these guys, and there's no reason for me to be the one trying to do that. They have the length of the backstretch here, and you're going to see coming up the finishing straight this time, I pay the price for this. So Ron goes around, a couple other riders, and you can just see like now I'm getting past. I'm a little gassed to the point that you're going to see this. I drop off the back. So now I'm the last rider in the remaining riders on the pack got whittled down tremendously because of the crash, because of attrition, because the pace was good. You know, I'm off the back of the group. I'm the last rider that's on the road right now. So, you know, again, in retrospect, there was no reason for me to go on that backstretch there. I don't know, you know, this is my old habits coming back. Old habits are hard to kill, but you know, another learning experience for me. Should have just stayed where I was, not gone to the front, because I basically towed all the guys that are now ahead of me closer to the group that was off the front, and I'm the one paying the price. I'm back. So now you're going to see, you know, I'm doing everything I can to try to get back on. I have to catch my breath because I put in an effort. So my focus right now is the guy ahead of me. Just get on his wheel. That's my focus. And I don't have a lot of power to do it because you can see my heart rate's not where I want it to be. Like now, this is where I have trouble. So my heart rate is over the 165 mark. I put in a good effort to get there. I'm having to work here and not getting the recovery I want. So, you know, I'm sort of, I wouldn't say I'm on my limit, but I would say, you know, I need a breather. You know, that it's a whole thing. Like when you watch cycling, you know, if the guy goes into the red, it's hard to recover. So I wouldn't say I was on the red, but I was definitely glowing. But you can see these guys aren't pulling away from me. So again, I'm happy with how I quote fought back. You know, I didn't let these guys go by me and get dejected in my mind. Like I do know I made a mistake, but at the same point in time, like I can see I'm getting back on. Eventually I'll get there and I'll be happy about that. So I want you to pay attention again to this finishing straight, because we're, you know, when we get up to the top here, this will be the bell lap. So I'm working here to get back on. I'm giving it one good solid boost here. You know, I'm definitely closing the space. I'm just looking at the guy ahead of me. I'm like, get on his wheel, get on his wheel, get on his wheel. Now as we come up here, you're going to see, as I was doing my pre-race warm-ups, there's the van, and up here on the right you're going to see a red fire hydrant. Well, my pre-race warm-ups, and thank you, I made it back onto the group. Right there's a red fire hydrant. That was the point where I said, okay, that's where I can start my sprint. I'll die before the line, but that's the spot where I start my sprint. You see Joe's brought back, so you see that the whole group came back. So now everybody's sort of going, and what happened while I was on the back is Jeff, Tim, and I think 2 other guys got off the front. Jeff was out there with Joe. Joe was caught, and I think Tim launched a counter. So I think there's 4 guys off the front at this point. But now I want to finish strong in this group. You know, I made a mistake, I paid for it, but now I want to hang out and I want to finish strong in this group. So I'm trying to follow Ron. Ron, you know, again, Ron's a smart rider. He can pick good lines. He knows how to make up space. And you can see he's trying to figure out, you know, don't want to go on the right side, don't want to go on the left side. And I think, unfortunately, he chose the left side, but there wasn't a lot of room here. There's like a storm drain over here on the left side of the road. That's right there. That's a pretty nasty bump, and you can see like people are coming over to the left and sort of shutting things down. Joe recovered after his attack there to shut down Jeff. So, you know, this is the group. I'm sort of at the tail end of the group, but I made it back. I'm happy with myself for not giving up and being like, yeah, it was too much. So like I said, I think there's 4 guys off the front, and now this is the group for 5th. So I still think I'm in pretty good shape. And again, remember the last lap I said I wasn't going to start sprinting until the fire hydrant. So this is the finishing straight. You see Ron's starting to pick it up. Joe's hanging by here. And you see Joe gets cut there, but look where I'm starting my sprint. Like this, I'm starting like before the van. Like I'm gonna die at the fire hydrant. Like watch this. So here goes my power dropping off, and there goes everybody. So anyway, it was a fun race. 2 mistakes. I started my sprint too early, and I shouldn't have chased on that. But overall, I was happy with my effort. I enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. This is Chris the Old Man saying peace. Like the video. Talk to you next time.